Thank you for the reminder. Welcome, everybody. My name is Janelle. I am a rep for Zone 4 for Shibi, which is the Saskatoon and area. And I'm also the Sask Youth Apprenticeship champion for Shibi. So anybody that registers through the program kind of comes through me. I'm kind of a liaison between SYA and a school. Basically, I think everybody else has to register through a school. So instead of registering through the school, you register through Shibi, and yeah, and we go from there. Today we have Alora joining us from the program, and she's going to review everything and answer any questions that we might have. Welcome, Alora.
Thank you so much. Yes, as Janelle said, my name is Laura Heinrichs, and I work for Saskatchewan Apprenticeship and Trade Certification Commission, which is a very long title, and we often hate saying the whole thing. So we're going to say SATCC or Sask Apprenticeship. So if you hear any of those things, just know that they're all the same thing, just shortened for us to be able to actually say out loud. So we look at the overview or the regulation of the educational process of what apprenticeship is. So Saskatchewan Apprenticeship isn't necessarily a training provider or a school, but we work with the schools and training providers to make sure that the education and regulation in the trades themselves is going the way that we want it as well as industry wants it. So we work really closely with industry members to ensure that the programs are reflecting what people need to know or apprentices need to know to become journey people. So I will share my screen with you now that I've said all my little blurb, and we will go and look at all the cool things that Sask Apprenticeship has to offer. And just let me know if you don't see my screen, or give me a thumbs up if it's good to go, Janelle. I'll be looking at you. I can see you. Good. Perfect. That's what I like to see. Great. All right. So when we're looking at our presentation outline, which is always important to know where things are going, we're going to first talk about apprenticeship and the skilled trades in terms of what even are the skilled trades, what apprenticeship looks like, and if it's the right career path for you, because it's not the right career path for everyone, and that's totally understandable. This presentation is meant to provide you with all of the options that you have to choose from, and hopefully that with this information, you can make an educated decision for yourselves or for your kids. Then we're going to be moving into part 2 of our presentation, which is looking at the SYA program, or the Saskatchewan Youth Apprenticeship Program. We like to shorten things here, so of course we say SYA. It's a little bit easier to say. So we're going to look at what it is, why you should join, and what the benefits are. And there are lots of really great benefits for doing this program. So I'm excited to share them with you. The first thing that I like to get you to contemplate in my presentation, and I know it's not as interactive online, but I like to ask a few questions. And so something that I'd like you to think about is learning through experience or with your hands something that you might be interested in or that you do well with? I'm always a problem solver. I like to learn, but through struggling a little bit. So I'm the type of person who never reads the manual before trying to fix something or put something together. That's just not how my brain works. I like to try and figure it out, and then I, accept my fate if I end up having to look at YouTube for the directions or something like that. But working through experience and learning through trial and error is part of something that's in the trades. The other thing I like to really ask is if you like to earn while you learn. And that's something that the trades has that that not all other types of careers or education offers, is that you get to be paid while getting an education. And so if you would love to be paid while getting an education, I know I certainly love that, then the career in a skilled trades might just be for you. The first thing I like to look at here is just the designated trades and subtrades in Saskatchewan. Now, this is not a comprehensive list. This is just a shortened version of everything. We have over 40 in Saskatchewan. And so as you can see, there's not 40 on the screen, but we do like to divide them into 4 sectors just to make it easier to navigate. And so our first sector that we're looking at is the agriculture, tourism, and service sector. Now, this section mainly deals with the person-to-person or customer service related type jobs. So if you like interacting with the people that you're serving or helping, then this sector might just be for you. As you can see, we have everything from cook to hairstylist to a landscape horticulturist. So there's quite a diversity in this sector. And there are probably ones that you didn't know were even trades in this sector, like esthetician, for example. Not many people know that esthetician is a trade in Saskatchewan. If we move along to the motive repair sector, you can see that a lot of these trades listed here are probably what you mostly think of as mechanics related. So those types of things like the parts technician or your automotive service technician, which we often think of as a mechanic, is in this sector. There's also, not listed here, but I think it's personally really, really cool. We even have an aircraft technician in our trades here in Saskatchewan. So if you were to ask yourself, or if you were even to come up to me and say, hey, I really want to work with engines, I really want to fix vehicles or motors or things like that, I would say, oh my gosh, that's fabulous, but it's not specific enough. What kinds of motors do you want to fix? What kinds of vehicles or types of equipment do you want to look at? Do you want to work in the farming industry with agricultural technician and motors and vehicles, or do you want to work on those airplanes? Or do you want to just work on the vehicles that people are driving day to day to their jobs and fun adventures for the day? All of those things are great questions to ask yourself if you're trying to decide what trade might be for you in that sector. Our production and maintenance sector, the best way I can describe that is looking at the large production or type factory type setting. So we're looking at power plants or mills or even now I'm thinking blanking of the word, but mines. There we go. Thank you for your patience. Mines would also include this. And so the main one that you'd probably see and recognize on this list is welder. And so they are working on a larger production scale. Then we go to our construction sector, and it is our biggest sector here because construction season is literally a season in Saskatchewan. So we need all of these wonderful tradespeople to help us keep our lives moving forward. And so you can see that there are things like carpenter or an electrician or plumber or power line technician. And those types of things really help us maintain our day-to-day lives. If our power goes out or our toilet starts overflowing, we want to call a journey person, plumber, or an electrician to come and help save us. So those types of things would fall into that category. And if you weren't sure about all of the other trades, because I have said that they aren't all listed here, our website has the full list of all of our designated trades and subtrades in Saskatchewan. And at the last slide I can show you, we have a link to our website there that you can visit and explore a little bit for yourselves. But from there, when we're looking at all of these trades and subtrades, we want to ask ourselves, well, what is the benefit of working in the trades and why would we want to do that? We have this long list in front of us, but why work in the trades? Well, number one, first and foremost, that a lot of people like to look at and think about is the good pay. Honestly, if you have goals of supporting yourself or your family right off the bat, going into the trades is definitely something that will help you achieve those goals. You start out and get employment and immediately would be starting to get paid before you even go to your technical training or your level training. And so right from when you get hired, you're able to start making money. And every year you go to school and increase your skills and increase your expertise on the things that you're learning, you get a raise in addition to that. So not only do you get to get paid right away, you're going to be consistently getting a raise every year of your training. Something that I mentioned earlier slightly is that respect component. One thing that the tradespeople really help us do is maintain our world and help keep things moving the way we want it to move. So like I said, if your lights stopped working, then you'd probably call an electrician. Or if your toilet wasn't flushing, well, then you'd probably call a plumber. Or if there was a complete power outage, well, you'd probably look up Sask Power, but Sask Power would probably help get those power line technicians and some of their other employees to go out there and check what's happening. And those are all tradespeople who are doing that. So that is a huge amount of respect for them in our world today. We'll have practical skills and hands-on work. I like to pair those two together because those two together pretty much define the trades themselves and the skilled trades, because that is the majority of how you're going to be learning throughout your apprenticeship process. So having those practical skills and learning through experience with your hands is the main component of how you're becoming an expert in the field. In addition to those, we have various career paths. You have a lot of options ahead of you. Like I said, there's over 40 trades and sub-trades in Saskatchewan, so you have a lot of choices there, but also from getting your journey person to getting your red seal, which is that red seal certificate that shows that you are a journey person throughout Canada and are an expert in your field. You can go work throughout Canada, wherever you'd like, based on that. And then you could even go one step further and get a blue seal if you wanted to become your own employer. And if you have questions about any of those things that I just said, feel free to ask or send them in the chat. I really don't mind talking to them, but I don't want to give you too many details because we got to get some of the other good things like our SYA materials in here. The next thing that we look at is the accomplishments. Now, this one does sound kind of lame, but I promise it's my favorite one to talk about because you get such a great sense of accomplishment in the trades. You can see the physical work that you're putting out into the world, and you can look at it and feel proud of what you're doing to support the people around you or your family or even yourself. For example, if you were working on a construction site, I know I live in an area right now that there's just so much construction going on. I feel like I was living next to a field and now there's so many houses everywhere. And so those people, those construction workers who helped put up those houses, they get to look at that and say, I helped put that up. My team and I helped build that for someone. And they get to drive around and see the things that they've put out into the world. My favorite is one of my coworkers here at Sask Apprenticeship is a plumber, and he knows the area that I live, and he's like, "Oh yeah, like have you driven by the 7-Eleven there? Like I helped put the plumbing in for that." And it makes me smile because it's exactly that, a sense of accomplishment and connection to the community that you're helping. Before we get any further, though, there are a couple terms that I do want to make sure we understand and clarify because they are terms that we'll use often throughout this presentation and throughout the apprenticeship process. So first and foremost, what is an apprentice? Well, an apprentice is simply put a person who is still training or still learning the skills that they need to learn. On the other hand, a journey person is someone who has gained all the experience and skills and is now considered to be an expert in the field. So, regardless of whether you want to become an esthetician or a welder or an electrician, at the end of the day, you go through the apprenticeship process to gain all the necessary skills and understandings that you need, and then you become that journey person, that expert. And ultimately, whether we have a journey person exam or the red seal exam, which is just looking at that higher level certification, it's ultimately recognizing how much time and effort and experience that you have and that you've achieved. And so I often like to say this because not every trade has to become a journey person. Sometimes it's a choice, and sometimes it's mandatory, depending on the trade that you're looking at. But what the Journey Person certificate offers is that certification and recognition that you've put in that extra time and work to be even better in that field. And what that allows is it allows the people receiving the service, like ourselves, like if I were to call a plumber and my toilet was broken, I want to make sure that I'm getting someone who knows what they're doing. And having their journey person certificate ensures that for us. It's not just my uncle who doesn't know what he's doing, and it's a risk that my toilet might be broken at the end of the day. I want to guarantee that I'm getting someone who knows their stuff. When we're looking at why we apprentice, I kind of mentioned this earlier in terms of good pay and my question that I asked earlier, but the top reason is that you get to earn as you learn. So, like I said, right when you get an employer, you're able to start earning money and then complete your technical training throughout that entire process, which means that you really have little or no debt after training. And I do have some statistics later on to give you a true comparison of universities in comparison to our Sask apprenticeship debt load. Another reason why people apprentice is to gain the experience and enhance their skills. They're ready to have that hands-on work and learn through that experience, and that's something that they're wanting and striving towards. And so we're able to provide that through our educational process. And in addition to that, you'll also have lots of job opportunities because apprenticeship and the trades, especially journey people, are required to help keep our world operating. There's always going to be jobs available for those trades because we absolutely need people all the time, especially in construction because it's seemingly never ending. So always great job opportunities for trades. And as I was talking a little bit about the educational process, and this one is going to give you a nice percentage in terms of what that might look like. Apprenticeship is about 2 to 4 years, depending on the program or trade that you choose. 4 years is the most common. And that out of all of those 4 years, 85% of that is hands-on experience. So hands-on training. You're learning on the job while being supervised or mentored by a journey person who's that expert in the field. In addition to that 85%, 15% will be in-class technical training. And it's not just in sitting in a classroom either. A lot of the training facilities or training providers often have the hands-on learning in shops or in the classroom, depending on the trade that you choose. So while it says in-class technical training, that's 15%, not all of that is going to be sitting in your seats listening to someone tell you all the facts or theory about the trade. You get a mixture of that as well. So it's really crafted to that experience-based learning, which I really, really love. Throughout this entire process, there's a lot of questions in terms of which order things need to go. Do I need to register first? Do I need to do SYA first? Do I need to get an employer first? There's a lot of questions regarding that, and this flow chart will help answer that for you. There are a couple ways to go into apprenticeship. For the sake of for clarity, we're going to be looking at this section right here. So for now, and I'll go to the next section in a second. So right now, you're about here. You're potentially taking SYA or thinking about taking SYA, and I'll go into that a little bit more down the line. But ultimately, you're deciding whether you want to work in the skilled trades or not, if it's for you or it's not. Once you've decided and said, yep, the trades are for me, I really want to do this, the next step that you would take is to go find an employer. So obtain employment. So you want to connect with journey people who in the trade that you want to see if they're willing to hire you and mentor you. That's a long time for them to be partnered up. So you have to see if they're willing to train you to the best of their abilities. And you want someone who you know is good as well, because then you can believe and trust that you're getting the education that you deserve. From there, from gaining an employer and gaining the hours that you're working, you'll then register as an apprentice with Sask Apprenticeship. So that's us. So we have an online system called MyATC that you would go on to our website and register. That's when you can provide your high school transcripts or your homeschool transcripts, and you can get credits for different classes that you took, as well as credits from potentially the SYA program if you've done it as well. After you've registered as an apprentice, You then get to go register or go to technical training. And that's what these year 1 and years 2 to 4 is referring to. So essentially, you'll get an employer, you'll work for a little bit of time, and then you'll register as an apprentice, and then you'll maybe potentially work a little bit longer, and then you'll go to the first technical training. Now, that is only about 6 to 10 weeks out of the year, so a couple months. So 2 months out of the year, you would be in technical training, and then the rest of the time, you would be on the job learning through the experience. And that will go on for 2 to 4 years, depending on the program, like I said. After all of those years have passed, after you've done all of the technical training you need, then you would register to write your Journey Person exam. Now, this exam is very large. You need a 70% to pass, so I know that that seems like a lot. But what this exam does is it's testing all of the knowledge and experience that you had in the last 2 to 4 years. And it's wanting to make sure that you know how to do those tasks or recognize the issues on this job site through the experience-based type questions. And so they will assess that entire education that you had. And I know that that sounds really, really big because I mean, I don't know about you guys, but most of the exams that I wrote growing up were only for, 4 months to a year, essentially, that I was being tested on. So I know that being tested on 4 years worth of stuff sounds like a lot, but ultimately, it's helping us see the Journey Person exam and Journey Person certification as valued as it is. It's recognizing that you are an expert in the field. And so to become an expert, you have to know your stuff. This slide also refers to the Red Seal Journey Person certification exam. Now, for the sake of our session, I'm using them interchangeably, but for some of the trades that we have in Saskatchewan, they might not be Red Seal trades, which means that they're not all Canadian recognized in the way that some trades are. So some trades are more of a provincial basis. And so those trades would be just the Journey Person certification exam. But the larger trades that are considered Red Seal trades that are regulated throughout Canada, you would have to write the Red Seal exam. But at the end of the day, it's all just kind of one exam. You're just writing that N certification exam to get that Journey Person certificate. And if you have questions about those differences, feel free to ask me as well. I'm always happy to answer those. On the other hand of things, we have a pre-employment route. And so that one is a little bit different. Let's say, hypothetically, that I wanted to become a welder. I have no experience with welding, and I don't even know the welding tools that I might need. Well, it might be really, really hard for someone like myself to find employment or find an employer who's willing to hire me because I have no skills. And so that's something that I might have to think and be like, well, maybe the pre-employment option is better for me because then I have at least a base level skill that employers might think is will help them out as well. They don't want to have to necessarily teach me the basics. And so sometimes that's a reason why people will take pre-employment is because that gives them that base level skill that employers will definitely want to hire you after. And so if you're having trouble finding an employer, then sometimes that pre-employment route is preferable. However, it's not that pre-employment is not what you would imagine as that earning as you learn type thing. That one is more of a traditional university type program. After you obtain employment in that route, everything else is the same in terms of what I've described before. So other than whether you want to get an employer right away and start making money before you register, or if you want to get some training and then find an employer and register, that's entirely up to you. And it's all based on what you think you need for your future. There's no right way or wrong way for this. There are costs, unfortunately. I would like to say that everything is rainbows and sunshine and that it's all good things, but just like anything, there are costs associated with apprenticeship. And the first one is the registration fee. So that one typically is $250 to register as an apprentice. And I'll just go back here for a second. Remember that one is occurring typically after you found employment, so you are already making money, so it shouldn't be too extreme in terms of cost. Um, but then we have technical training tuition, and that's again 6 to 8 weeks out of the year, or 6 to 10 weeks out of the year that you would be in technical training. And that is typically about $110 a week. So if we had an 8-week program, that would be $880 for that training for the year. Then we have food and rent while attending training, of course, just like any type of education, along with your books and tools that you might require, along with safety equipment as well. One thing to keep in mind, one of my favorite things to remind everyone of is that it never hurts to ask a question. And I love encouraging people to ask questions. So I say that because safety equipment and tools are sometimes paid for by the employer, and it really just depends on what employer you have. So always ask if if the tools and safety equipment are something that they are willing to cover, or if you need to buy it yourself before working there, because you never know. The worst someone's going to say is no.
Laura, can I
Yeah,
interrupt you? We have a question
please
in the
do.
chat.
Yeah.
Christina is wanting to know, are you going to be talking about taking courses through the school system as a homeschooler?
Um, like courses is in PAA courses, or what kind of courses? I'd love to
Christina, can
hear.
you clarify your question?
Yeah, sure. I was thinking, I saw something about the online distance learning about specifically the welding. There was a welding course, and it was new to the province and new to all things distance learning through Saskatchewan education. So I don't really know the process, but I just saw that there was something that my kid could do through the school system. And I
Absolutely. Yeah. So I have heard of that, and I've worked with a few students who have done that as well. So yes, Sask DLC does offer those types of options courses or PAA courses, such as welding. And there's been two different ways to go about that I've seen. Sometimes students sign up with the teacher, that they're like Sask DLC teacher who's running the course. Or sometimes if you're signed up with Shibi, then signing up with Shibi would totally work as well. It's just a matter of who's actually tracking the process. And so at this point, because Shibi is here and is a dedicated resource for you, I would recommend just sticking with that. But at the end of the day, those courses contribute to hours that they can claim on their high school transcript, essentially. So we aren't integrated ourselves with the program, but we recognize the program in terms of that it's a PAA credit of sorts. So um, I will go into this a little further with the SYA program, but for the SYA program, in order to get all of the challenges done, you do need 2 PAA credits. And so if they don't have the PA credit or like a shop class or something related to that on their homeschool transcript, then that might be a good resource for that. However, if it's in addition to those 2 credits, then they would get extra hours provided to their apprenticeship account when they register. And so typically, like for that welding course, they would get 100 extra hours in addition to everything else with our SYA program. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, mostly.
Okay.
I'm still just trying to figure out like do I have to go to my school or do I go to Shibi, who would then go to my local school? Like
If
how does
yeah, if you're just wanting to sign up for the program, is that what you're
yeah,
asking?
yeah, I
Yeah.
think so.
Okay, yeah, for sure. I just want to make sure I answer your question properly. I would hate to miss anything. So yeah, if it's with Sask DLC, then you can go directly to them to register as well. You
Okay.
don't have to go through the school. Yeah. Yeah. You
Oh,
can just register through them.
through DLC. Okay.
Yeah.
So Shibi's not really involved in the process if
I don't believe so, but Janelle might know. Okay. She's shaking her head. Very good. Yeah, so no, I guess your best bet is just to go directly to Sask DLC, and they are very familiar with that. They've done it a few times already. I'm familiar with.
okay. So it would just give like a nice um head start for the kids being in high
Absolutely.
school, taking it so that they have a head start on getting in. Like, is it right?
No, it wouldn't change whether they get in, but it ultimately, what we focus on mostly in apprenticeship is the hours. And so hours is what we use to track progress. And so it will help them get ahead in hours. And
Okay.
so, which means that once they graduate, they would be able to go into that first level of training a lot quicker than maybe other people who don't have as many hours as they do.
Okay.
Mhm.
That's good.
If anything else comes up related to the question, just feel free to interrupt and we'll address
Okay.
it. Okay.
Thank you.
I do have one more person, Laura, while you're talking about,
Sure.
I know you probably talk about PA courses further on too, but she's just wondering if they need to be anything specifics, like a science and a math, or can they be any two PAA courses?
It can be any two PAA courses. We do have minimum requirements for math and science, but they typically aren't as high as what people think. We do a general recommendation, obviously, that you have that grade 12, but then your math and science credits will just depend on what trade you're looking at it. Some are just grade 10 math science credits. Some might be grade 11 math and grade 10 science. I can show you also before we finish this presentation, I can always go on to our website just to direct you to show you where to find those things for your reference and so that you can go back at another time.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. And the PAA credits, in particular, I just realized I forgot to answer half of that. The PAA credits just depends, the hours that they get will depend on what type of PAA or what type of course they're taking. So often the trade specific courses, so like the welding or like the wood shop / carpentry, or there's some electrical courses or even mechanics courses, those ones are considered to be more like related to the trades. And so those types of courses, they would get 100 hours on their transcripts and given to their account. Or if it's just a general type of PAA class that's a little bit more of a survey course, then it would be 70 hours. But at the end of the day, for any type of PAA course, they'd be getting some sort of hours given to them. Perfect. Are we good, or do we have any other questions
There is
to
one
look?
more coming up too.
Okay, sounds good. Yeah, we might as well do it
Leslie,
now.
Leslie would like to know, she says, I have a question regarding whether homeschool transcripts are accepted. At a local career fair, the trades rep said that our students still need to take the GED. That is no longer recognized, so it was a bit confusing. Is a homeschool grade 12 transcript enough, or do homeschool students need additional documentation to apply?
Yes, so we accept a copy of your notice of intention and like the written education plan. So we would accept that, as well as your signed statement of marks or independent transcripts. And we would also, if for those who are unable to complete that grade 11 or 12 level of education, then it's not that we don't accept anyone. We do have a program called IXL Learning. And so if we notice that those items aren't on the transcript, and essentially what our thing is that we want to make sure that there's that basic level of literacy that will help carry them through the apprenticeship classes and courses in terms of what the minimum math and science integration is in terms of the future. And so we want to make sure that everyone is the most prepared in order to feel successful throughout their program. And so what we do is we have an online IXL learning that they would be registered for. And essentially, it will just assess the different areas of literacy. If they are good in the majority of sections and just have one section of math that they're struggling with, they wouldn't have to redo any of the previous content. They would just have to redo the sections that they're struggling with until they are able to achieve that understanding, and then they would be able to move forward with the rest of the process.
What was the name of that IXL learning? Sorry,
Yeah, I excel. And there's not a whole lot of it just posted onto our website just because it is just based on the assessment of transcripts when that registration happens. So there's nothing else that really flags it for us. But that one's, that one's more of a last resort for people who are unable to get that GED or that grade 12, or if they had modified courses on their transcripts, they would be directed to IXL as well.
okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Good to continue for a few minutes? Awesome. Okay, sounds good. Okay, so I did list all the costs and I left you hanging for quite a long time for the support, so it's not all bad news. There are supports for people available. Number one is the option to go on EI during that, approximate 2-month training time. So the rest of the time, individuals are working and getting paid for the work that they're putting out. But those 2 months that they're in training, they're obviously not getting paid by their employer. So EI is an option for that. The other option that we have to help alleviate some of the stress in terms of cost is our apprenticeship training allowance. And this one is in particular to if you have to travel over 52 kilometers to the place of training or the technical training, then you would get an allowance to help with some of the additional costs. So some people have to drive to PA or Moose Jaw or Saskatoon to be able to get that training that they are looking for. And that really just depends on the trade in terms of where it's offered. So that is available for anyone who knows that they'll probably have to drive more than 50 kilometers to their training for that 2-month period. We also do have some federal and provincial tax credits. I just always consistently try and put a Google search into like a Government of Canada or Saskatchewan in terms of what's being offered. We have a few different things right now, but some of them are changing in the springtime here. So I'm not going to go into that in too much detail just because some changes are occurring in that department. And I had kind of said previously in a previous slide that some employers do pay expenses as well. So always ask, it never hurts to ask. Different employers just have different policies in terms of what they're willing to do. And then we have our SYA benefits. So if you complete our SYA program, you would get that $250 registration fee waived when you go to register with us. We would reimburse you for that first year of technical training. You would get 300 hours of trade time credits, and potential scholarships are also available if you finish that program before you graduate or before you're done school. So this is a good comparison that I like to provide because it's just such a stark difference. But we compare all of the universities and institutions. So in this area in particular. So we have U of S, U of R, SIAT, Sask Polytech, SATCC, which is us, and PVS, which is just our private vocational schools. And so on average, all of that is about $12,000 to $13,000 in terms of average debt that individuals would have for attending a post-secondary program. Whereas the average debt for a journey person after certification is about $3,000. So you have quite a difference. You have about $10,000 difference in terms of that average debt when comparing it with other types of institutions or opportunities in terms of education. Just for reference, and I know that some other people will probably feel the same way, but I went a different route. I didn't quite go the tradesperson route, and I have an education background. And so I can definitely confirm that my debt load was way over the $13,000 mark for debt in regards to a university. And so the $3,000 debt would have been a lot more tempting if I were to see that now. Another just monetary thing, because oftentimes the people that I talk to are the most excited to hear about all the money that they could be making in the trades. So on average, and we come from 2019 surveys just because that is the most recent that's the most recent data that we have. But on average, once you graduate, you're able to earn about $63,000, which is very good just coming out of an education component. This is one of my favorite slides because it's just such a good visual. This is showing you just kind of along the line or the timeline or the measuring stick of where the different degrees fall in terms of how much money you're making. And so the first one we have is a diploma. And that one's going to make you about $50,000. And just for reference, a diploma takes about 2 years to complete. And so that's where your starting point is. Then we have a bachelor degree, and that one usually takes around 4 years to complete. And that's around $63,000 approximately. And then a lot further down the line, you have your journey person, which is making about $83,000 on average. And remember, to become a journey person, that's only 2 to 4 years of education. Remember, mostly hands-on and mostly making money the entire time you're doing it. And then you have your doctorate, which takes around 7 years to complete, and you're only making about $10,000 more than a journey person at that point. So just for context and for comparison's sake, this is a really good visual to look at. That's a pretty dang good number, if I may say so myself. And we have one more statistic for you, actually a couple. I almost lied to you, but here we have our, in Saskatchewan in particular, the highest median employment income. And so I'm just going to remind you guys just that median is referring to that middle number. So half of the people did make more and half of the people did make less. And so the top income that we have is industrial instrumentation and control technician. And underneath that, we have power line technician and industrial mechanic millwright. I'm just naming the top 3 for now, but something to keep in mind in terms of understanding the wages is typically the higher risk is the higher income. And so, you know, power line technician, you're climbing all those power poles and hopefully you're not afraid of heights. So you and hopefully don't fall and you're extra safe, but because of the risk you're taking, you would make more money. And that's a good rule of thumb. Also, I do want to point out that while hairstylist is just so sad all the way down here at the bottom, that is just a statistic. Hairstylists are one of those customer service or that agricultural and tourism sector. And so it's always important to remember that hairstylists might vary a lot more because they might be able to determine the types of products they're selling, how much they're charging for services, how full they're booking their day, whether they're their own employer or if they're working at a shop or a salon. There's a lot of different factors that go into that component. So it's always good to think of those things. Then we have in Canada, so the last slide was throughout Saskatchewan. Throughout Canada here, we have the 3 highest earning trades. And so you can see that they're slightly different than Saskatchewan, but not by much. So we have the power line technician there still. The crane operator is a little bit different on this one. And then we have that industrial instrumentation and control technician as well. So that's one of the top money makers consistently too. But I tell you all of these monetary things, that all of the money that you're making, but I can't stress enough, and this is, you know, through my own experience and through my conversations with other people just trying to find their journey throughout the world. And you know, money is something to consider. You do need money to live and survive, but the most important thing that you look at and that you consider is what you want to do with your time, what you want your day-to-day to look like, and how you want to be putting in that work, because you're going to be having to work anyway to make money. What kind of work would you like to be doing? And that's a really important thing to decide in terms of what you want that, you know, the day-to-day stress to be looking like. Or do you want to be physically tired at the end of the day? Or do you want to be mentally tired at the end of the day? Or do you just want to be entirely tired at the end of the day? All of those things are important to consider when deciding what will fit with your dreams and hopes for the future. Now, because we have so many fabulous questions, I'm going to skip over this video. It is a great video. It is on our YouTube as well, so you can feel free to check it out. But I wanna be able to answer as many questions as I can, so I won't be doing that. But I will talk about our youth apprenticeship program because that is something that you can definitely get started on quite early on, which is exciting. So I know most people, even as an adult, it might be hard to be faced with the question of what do you want to do for your future? Because a lot of us don't even know what we want for dinner tonight, let alone our future. So there's a lot of things to include. But one thing that people can do during their high school experience is at least complete this program to open up options for themselves if the trades is something that they choose. So our SYA program is essentially a high school program, which is more of an independent program that you can start in grade 9 all the way to grade 12. And the whole purpose of this program is to get people familiar with what apprenticeship is, what it looks like, what the process to certification looks like as well, and how they can achieve their apprenticeship goals. And so all of our program is meant to familiarize individuals with these processes. The other thing is that it does teach practical skills in terms of preparing for the workforce, in terms of connecting with employers or other individuals that can help them decide what they are wanting for themselves. And then the next part is that there are 12 challenges that students complete during this program to prepare for that apprenticeship. And I kind of mentioned this before, but the benefits of doing this program is that we would waive that apprenticeship registration fee, which is about $250. We wouldn't be charging for level 1 technical training, or we'd be reimbursing for level 1 technical training. We would be providing 300 hours of trade time credits and the potential SYA scholarship opportunities. So it's about 10 hours of work, we like to say. And so for 10 hours of work, you're going to be getting about $1,200 of monetary value in terms of benefits and 300 hours of credits. So 10 hours of work, $1,200 and 300 hours. So it's pretty good bang for your buck in terms of what you'd be getting with that potential $1,000 scholarship as well. This is kind of our overview of the challenges themselves, so you can kind of get an idea of what all needs to be done in order to achieve those benefits. I had mentioned before that there are those 2 PAA credits that are on there. So if you're starting in grade 9, it might be hard to do all of these at once. You might have to, it might be a journey, or it might take time and a couple years, but you can definitely start chipping away at these as you go. In addition to our PAA credits, we have things like a trade report or completing the Young Worker Readiness course. Some people might have already done this, some people might not have, and that's totally fine. If any of these things have been done prior to our discussion or prior to registering for the SYA program, they still all apply. So if a couple years ago, one of your kids attended a career fair, you can definitely use that to sign off on this information because it can happen at any point throughout their experience. The other thing that's really, really great is the apprenticeship experience beyond the school, and that's where they'll go pair up with a journey person to experience some of the day-to-day work that they're doing so that they feel confident in their decision to work in the trade if they choose to. And even, this apprenticeship and trades discussion that can be done with a parent or even a friend or a career counselor at a career fair. It just depends where you are. But ultimately, it's just referring to the discussion that's happening, whether it's right for you or not, or what kinds of trades they're interested in. So that is a pretty general one as well. Are there any questions about the SYA challenges now that I'm on the screen right now? I see so far so good, I think.
I think so.
Okay, perfect. I'll just click to the next one. So in order to get to the SYA program, what you'd need to do essentially is register for the program through My ATC, which is on our website. You need to complete all 3 levels, which are the 12 challenges that were on the previous screen. Then they would receive the certificate of completion with their name on it. It's all official. And then you can find a job after high school and start apprenticing. Now, I do want to preface this by saying, while the slide says after high school, it is definitely possible for individuals to start apprenticing during high school. It doesn't have to be after graduation. If they're wanting to find an employer and work once a week, while balancing their other demands of school, that's totally acceptable. It's just whatever works with the current education plan that you have right now. And so, for example, my nephew is not in homeschooling, but they are finishing up grade 12 this year, and they started apprenticing in grade 11 as a power line technician. So you can start as early as you are able to work in the world, essentially. So it depends. I know individuals who are 13, 14 years old, and they've been working with their parent who's a carpenter, and they're able to start gaining hours and experience while they're doing that. So there isn't necessarily an age limit on how early you can start, other than the age of legally working in Saskatchewan, which is that you're 14. So other than that, you're good to go. I do have these cheat sheets available. And so this teacher cheat sheet will likely apply to Janelle a little bit more. But the SYA registration cheat sheet would be also helpful. These are the student steps right here. Since it's on the screen, I know that some of you might want to screenshot that, but we also have copies that we can send out if necessary, or the links on our website. But essentially, students can go ahead and right now, if they wanted to say, yeah, I want to be in SYA and I want to do this, they could follow the student steps by logging on and linking their services. And then Janelle would get a nice notification that some individuals are wanting to get their SYA application approved and get going with that. And so Janelle would see the names pop up into her interface or her website that she views everything on. If you were to, oh, go ahead.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, it's
Can I
all good.
interrupt with another question?
Yeah, please do.
Leslie is asking, oh, where did it go? Oh, right here. What is the expiry date for this program? If my student took a gap year or decided at 19 or 20 and completed this program at 17, could they still access the benefits, credit hours, etc.?
Yes, you could. So there's it's usually a 5-year window to apply with apprenticeship just for the SYA. However, there is a 2-year cap on the scholarship. So if your child won one of the scholarships, it's a 2-year timeline in terms of actually using that. Yeah, perfect. Back to the slide, I have this. So this is kind of what it would look like if you were to log in and try and start that SYA application. So you'd have it under My ATC Services, and you have all of these nice options here, and you'd obviously click the SYA application because that's what we're looking for. And from here, you can fill in your school or sponsoring organization. So in this case, it'd be Saskatchewan Home-Based Educators. That you'd fill in, and Janelle's name would automatically autofill as the SYA champion for you, so you don't have to deal with that. So you can see here that it all fills in, and there's some other questions that you obviously need to fill in as well, personal information. The nice thing about this is it doesn't let you submit if you haven't entered the information that we require, so that's always a bonus because I'm always afraid that I'm going to forget something important, so I like that feature a lot. And then you can see that it was accepted and created. And by that time, we would have gotten a notification on our side, and Janelle probably would have gotten a notification on her side as well. So I kind of mentioned the SYA scholarships a little bit, but essentially we have $1,000 scholarships that we award every year to graduates who've completed our SYA program. And we give out a good number of these every year. We distribute it widely throughout Saskatchewan. And there's a pretty good rate in terms of being able to provide a scholarship to at least one surrounding area here and there. So it's a pretty good likelihood if you've completed the SYA scholarship and have a graduation year coming up that you'd be able to be eligible for that for sure. All right. So basically, just to review, an apprentice is still learning, and they learn through an 85% to 15% model of education. So 85 is on hands-on, and 15 is that classroom training. And our programs run from anywhere from 2 years to 4 years, depending on the trade. And that journey person is someone who's already completed their training. They're already considered an expert in their field. They've passed that red seal or journey person exam, and they are good to go. They're good to even train other people, train other apprentices, because they know their stuff so well. And while there are costs like I've gone over, there's also a lot of supports available, such as our training allowance, EI. We have a graduate retention program here. There are different tax credits that employers can have, or just even our SYA program in general. You get a lot of great benefits that help alleviate some of the stresses that come with the costs themselves. And this, our website for this section is also up here. If you want to go back once the recording is posted, that is a great place to go as well. And I'll just leave this up here. This is the contact information for us at our email and our phone number if you ever want to reach us, as well as Janelle has my email as well. So if you ever needed to get in contact with me directly, she can definitely forward that along. But yeah, other than that, my monologue is complete. So I'm totally welcoming any other questions, or if you want me to go onto our website and direct you to a few of the forms or things like that, I'm more than happy to.
Thank you, Laura.
You're welcome. My pleasure.
I have a question.
Yeah, please ask.
Okay. Thank you for the information. I have been looking into a little bit of apprenticeship in itself for
awesome.
my son potentially. Both my husband and I are journey people, so we're not new to the trades, but how do you, like you mentioned about if your child is going to work with their parent and learning that, like how do you need to track the hours? Like, does it need to be an official, do you need to be an official employee, or because we haven't gone that route yet and I didn't know how we appropriately track for evidence?
Yeah. So are they wanting to go into one of the trades that you or your partner is in?
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, carpentry.
Okay.
But yeah.
Okay. So I can show you, but for note taking sake, it's called the 6A form that you're probably kind of familiar with.
Well, I did. Yeah, I looked up that one. Okay.
Yeah, so basically the 6A form is available on the trade page for whatever trade that you're looking for. And I'm saying that just generally for everyone as well. But what that does is it hold on to those documents and keep them in a safe place, because the time that you actually submit them and that we go over them is when they apply for apprenticeship. So they've gotten their employer, they're working for a bit. When they register as an apprentice with Sask Apprenticeship, they'll include all of their personal information, whether they've done SYA and things like that. And there's a spot to submit additional hours to be recognized. And that's where you would scan or take a picture of those forms that have been signed, and you'd submit them along with the application. I mean, you can submit them after too, but ultimately that's when we would go through the transcripts that they have on file and those 6A hours, and then we would allot all of those hours that we've assessed to their account as an apprentice, in addition to the SYA hours.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. And this may or may not apply only, anyway, so do they need to be a Saskatchewan registered student in order to access any of these? Well, not apprenticeship, I guess, because you don't need to be necessarily in high school, right? But
Mhm.
this is the SYA. Like we are currently we've been home-based educators. We're currently in a private school. We do educate from home, but currently out of province high school, like a school registered. So
Okay.
I didn't know if you had to be registered because you need that champion thing that you're talking about, that Janelle is
Mhm. Yeah.
so
Well,
do you need that to take
n
this SYA?
no, and I guess in this case too, Janelle would be your champion. So Janelle would be the person that they would register with. And so they wouldn't need to be registered with a school, whether it's in Saskatchewan or otherwise, because the only thing that we're looking at is that progress of the SYA program themselves. So are they like your kid is planning to stay in Saskatchewan? Yeah, for sure. So yeah, in that case, yeah, you don't need to be a registered student in Saskatchewan to be able to take the SYA program. We don't cross-reference that information. And because Shibi is here as well, that really works best for you guys in terms of where you're going to register, because Janelle will just take care of the tracking in terms of when you guys say, oh, we've done this, and this, and you communicate that with Janelle, and she would mark it off in terms of on our database, and we would keep track of it that way.
Okay, yeah, that's good to know. And can you speak into any like I know, or I've been aware, and I was reading a little bit about it, that you can actually become a journey person without apprenticing? Can you speak into that? Is that your area, or no? Like, and you just work a whole bunch of hours and then you decide to challenge the exam?
Yeah, and so that would be our tradesperson route or our trades qualifier route. And so we hyphenate it sometimes to say TQ. So sometimes some of the documents might say that, but yeah, that's totally possible. You wouldn't be able to do that in a trade like construction electrician because it's a compulsory trade. There's only a handful of compulsory trades in Saskatchewan, but in any trades that are voluntary, yeah, you can totally just work and never register as an apprentice. And then you have to do time and a half hours in order to be able to challenge the exam. But it's definitely possible. And that information, I can also help provide based on which trade you're looking at. So I can definitely put my email even into the chat for everyone. Would that be helpful?
Sure.
I will do that now. Yeah, because if you have particular questions in terms of, well, how many hours do I need as a TQ in this area, then I can definitely give you that. And that's way clearer than you trying to find it anywhere. Okay, this is my email for everyone.
And is that a similar tracking process? Those 6A forms needed for that? For those
Yeah.
hours?
Yeah, those are the forms that we ultimately use to verify trade experience. Yeah.
Right. Okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for asking.
Great questions.
Yeah, it was awesome questions. Does anyone else have any questions?
Don't see anything else in the chat.
Okay.
Anybody else?
Okay.
Hi.
Yeah, well, I've put my email there as well. So if anyone has any questions that come up later, just feel free to email them my way and I'll try and get you the information as best I can.
That sounds great.
Yeah.
You guys always seem so easy to get a hold of too. If with Sam before, if I ever had any questions, she was always right there to answer. So
Yeah,
you
yeah,
guys
we
can
try our
contact.
best.
Yeah, you can
We
contact
want,
Alora or through Shibi, either or. Yeah.
yeah, we want the process to be as stressless as possible. We don't want it to be overcomplicated, and we want to try and get you the answer as soon as we can, so you're not just sitting there. So yes, it's our pleasure.
And it really does seem like a stress-free program. Like the students that I had go through last year and stuff, talking to them, it sounds like, you know, the bang for what you put into it is so
Mhm.
worth it. And Yeah, it just seems like a really great program.
Yeah, yeah, it's not a huge time investment, and you're really opening the doors to a lot of potential opportunities, which is huge. That's what we want to hear. So I'm glad that it's going well for some people.
Yeah. And
I
even
Yeah,
if you didn't end up wanting to take a trade, right? Like if it's only
yeah,
10 hours, it's not a ton of work that
no,
take it
no.
anyways. And then if it applies, great, you know?
Yeah, well, like who knows? Like, I mean, most people don't really know entirely what they want to do right after they graduate. So it sets you up for even if you're, 19, 20 and finally made the decision to do it. Like I think someone else kind of mentioned in the chat there. So and you still can have those benefits applied, which allows you that time for decision making, which is really crucial because it's hard to make such a big decision for a future. It's a big decision.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I had one question.
Yeah, what's up?
With having the two PAA courses, and those are basically, from my understanding, high school courses.
Correct.
Oh, is that calculated in the 10 hours of work that you mentioned before, or is that kind of separate? Like, I'm just trying to figure out what the 10 hours of work.
Yeah, for sure. I guess we don't include the course hours, and so we didn't include the time in the classroom. The 10 hours would not really include those PAA classes because it was formed more traditionally according to the high school transcripts in Saskatchewan, recognizing that every grade 10 and 11 student would have them on their transcript already as part of their educational experience. So no, the 10 hours does not include that, if that
Okay.
helps.
And is it fairly easy to, as a homeschooler where I am terrible at tracking things, to make like a class or transcript that would count as a PAA course, or is it better if I just go through the DLC program to get one that way?
Hmm. Um, I'm not sure that in terms of that. Like, I think we ultimately will assess and look at that homeschool transcript that you create. So I mean, if have to use your judgment in terms of what that's hitting in terms of that trade time experience. I can definitely double check with our assessment team to figure out what kinds of homeschool transcripts they might have received in the past in terms of what PAA credits they've used if it wasn't through Sask BLC. So
Okay.
I'll make a note for that because that's a great question.
Thank you.
Yeah. Um,
Hi, I have a question, just kind of relating to what you said.
yeah, what's that? I'd love to
So when
answer.
you say assessment, you assess them, meaning you make them write a test?
No, sorry. Our team and assessment team are the ones that typically review the transcripts and potentially the hours that are submitted to ensure that they're going to have the right hours on their apprenticeship account. So we would look at the homeschool transcript that is created or that is provided along with the notice of intention. And we would look at that and look at all the classes that are listed and say, oh, okay, this one is a trade specific course, so they're going to get 100 extra hours for that. Or this one is not a trade specific course, but it was kind of like a shop class or a PAA class, so they'll get 70 additional hours for that. So they kind of assess the transcript and determine how many extra hours they would receive based on the classes that they've taken.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Thank you for asking that. Are there any other class or questions? I was writing classes. Sounds good. Well, I'm always available. If you ever have anything, just feel free to give me a shout. In my email in the chat there, I'm always happy to hear from you and always happy to be challenged by questions that I might not have the answer to yet. So I will work hard to find the answer though, I promise.
Thank you so much, Alora.
Yeah, no problem. My pleasure. It was a good group and I love all the questions. I don't always get such specific questions when I'm in front of like grade 10s, So this is this is nice. It's nice to hear.
I know I was wondering if we were going to have, yeah, high school kids on, or if it would be parents or a mix of both. I think it's mostly parents, but it's good.
Nice. That's awesome.
Yeah,
I
that's
love
great.
it.
Okay, well, thanks again for your time, and thanks everybody for coming.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, I just see one, hang on one second. I see a couple things in the chat coming up now. Oh, I think it's kind of side notes about tracking, about writing transcripts,
No
creating your,
worries.
yeah. Karen says, I think the real question is if parents can provide proof of completing PAA classes at home. Yeah,
Yeah, and they can, but I'll just double check on the criteria that needs to be included on that transcript, just so that I can give you the right information. And I'll send it to you, Janelle, when I find that information, so you can fan it out to whoever would like it, essentially. But
for sure. Okay,
Yeah.
that sounds great.
awesome. Awesome.
All right. Well, thanks everybody. Enjoy the rest of your day, Laura, and we'll be in,
Thank you.
I suppose.
Sounds wonderful. Stay warm out there, everyone. Stay
Yes.
safe too.
That's
All right.
all right.
Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.